Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a group called Loose Ends. They had an album that came out many years ago that was called The Real Chucky Boo. I don't really know anything about what a Chucky Boo is, but that was what the album was called. But I feel like your man LeVar Ball, I feel like he needs to put out an album. And my fear of saying he needs to put out an album is he might actually start rapping, which would not be a good thing, right? But I could see him, in a sense, deciding that he was going to come out here and put out an album. I don't want him out here rapping like Mercury Morris, but I just want him to put out an album because the title of that album would be, or maybe if he did a movie, it'd be called The Big Okie Doke. He's running okie doke on us all. Like, yo, we're here, man. As much as anybody talk about how mad they get at this dude, we are here. The joke is all on us. The big okie doke is in full effect. In fact, I imagine if LeVar Ball was in the NBA right now, Shaquille O'Neal would call him the big okie doke. Because the big okie doke is in effect. And the okie doke is so big. The okie doke is so big that LeVar managed to hit Michael Jordan with the okie doke. Now, you have to understand that Michael Jordan is not a very difficult man to hit with the okie doke, but he got hit with the okie doke nonetheless. Now, you may remember that months ago, LeVar Ball said about Michael Jordan that back in his heyday that he could have beaten Michael Jordan in one-on-one. He said that what he would do was just back Michael Jordan down and that Michael Jordan wasn't big enough, and then that would be that. Now, of course, I feel like that entire strategy is dependent upon hitting the shot for the ball, because if you don't hit the shot for the ball, you have no chance. You can't back anybody down when you're on defense. And when you're on defense against Michael Jordan, you can't stop him from scoring, right? But, hey, man, he went out there, he talked about it. People were actually out entertaining the idea that this whole thing could come up. And I just remember, man, I was sitting there like, you getting got. You're getting got. LeVar is simply the dude who does this, right? He says these sorts of ridiculous things. Basically, LeVar Ball is kind of like the Kim Jong-il of the AAU circuit. Not Kim Jong-un, that is the current president of North Korea. I'm talking about his father, Kim Jong-il. And I am not saying that LeVar Ball is a dictator who may, in fact, try to start a nuclear war of some sort. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he reminds me a lot of the dude that said, what was it, his first round of golf, that he hit like 15 hole-in-ones or something like that, or is it holes in one? Like that's LeVar Ball for you right there. You throw a soccer ball out there in front of LeVar Ball. LeVar Ball gonna be like, man, I'm better at this than Peely. I mean, that's just what it's gonna be. That's just how he gets down. So he said that he could beat Michael Jordan in one-on-one. Mike couldn't help it, man. Mike couldn't help it. Like, we all understand this thing about Michael Jordan. One thing about Michael Jordan that is fascinating is that we all see Michael Jordan as kind of existing in this space that's above us. Right? We all see Michael Jordan as kind of treading in this rarefied air. But you know what Michael Jordan is above? Nothing. Nothing. There is nothing that Michael Jordan is above. There is no level that Michael Jordan is not willing to sink to get to where you are if Michael Jordan feels like you have tested him. It doesn't matter who you are. It does not matter what you do. If you offer Michael Jordan some variety of challenge, Michael Jordan just can't walk away. So the good folks at Slam Magazine came up on Michael Jordan, right? And they asked Michael Jordan about LeVar saying that back in his heyday that he would kill Michael Jordan. Here's what Michael Jordan said, okay? You got to understand the source. I think he played college, maybe. He averaged 2.2 points a game. Really? Now, let's stop right there. Michael Jordan said, you got to understand the source. I think he played college, maybe. Averaged 2.2 points a game. Now, it is possible that he thought he was mixing him up with Skip Bayless. Right. But, come on now, that's the petty in Mike. I think he played college ball, and then you can say what the numbers were when he played college ball, right? So that's Mike saying, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And then he just got in there a little bit because he couldn't help himself because he's Michael Jordan. And then he says, really? It doesn't deserve a response. But I'm going to give it to you anyway because you asked the question. The moment right there that Michael Jordan tried to rise above, did not try very hard to rise above, but tried to rise above nonetheless. And that's where Mike tried to nope, stoop, I'm coming right back down. Remember, he says, it doesn't deserve a response, but I'm going to give it to you because you asked the question. Because we all know Michael Jordan, if you ask Michael Jordan the question, he is required to answer it. No matter what. Yeah, exactly. That's how Michael Jordan has gotten down in the 35 years that we have been aware of Michael Jordan. How about this? Go to Michael Jordan right now with a camera and a microphone and ask him what he thinks about the job that Donald Trump is doing as president and see if Michael Jordan going to answer something just because you asked it. Nope. Mike was like, okay, let's do this. And here he goes. I don't think he could beat me if I was one-legged. Shannon, what you got? What you got?
Are you asking me really of the LeVar or the one-legged Jordan?
Yes.
I seen Jordan's fadeaway, so I might have to take Mike on that.
See, that's what I was about to say. Here's the thing about it that we have to be very clear about. Mike said, if I was one-legged. Mike did not say, if you cut off one of my legs. So if we take a Michael Jordan as Michael Jordan exists and we cut off, not cut off his legs, right. Let me start over. If we take Michael Jordan, and we know all the talent that Michael Jordan has, but that Michael Jordan only knows the one-legged life, right? He has had all these years to hone his craft as a one-legged person. I do believe that Michael Jordan could be LeVar Ball. Now, if Michael Jordan were to go out and lose his leg, right, like some Lieutenant Dan, if he were to lose his leg, then I don't think that he could beat LeVar because then he would have to get adjusted to the fact that he didn't have the leg. But if he had never had that second leg in the first place and he never knew the life of having two legs and all he had was all that talent and he had to figure out how to make it work on one leg with the level of competitiveness that existed there in Michael Jordan, I got my money on one-legged Mike. Right there. Like, I mean, I know most of y'all were probably like, yeah, I think Mike could beat him on one leg. No, I feel like you're actually selling short the potential greatness of one-legged Mike. I think one-legged Mike has got LeVar. In fact, we need to put this on a poll. Which would be the best basketball player? LeVar Ball, one-legged Mike, or two-legged Mike, who then lost one leg? I would then, in that order, go one-legged Mike, two-legged LeVar, two-legged Mike minus one. That's the direction I would go. That's how I would go with this. But see, this is all the okie doke, man. This is the big okie doke that LeVar is pulling off right now. Do you realize I actually just gave a serious level of thought about a hypothetical one-legged Mike? Right? Like I really sat up here and thought about a one-legged Mike, amputee Mike. I really sat here and thought about amputee Mike, right? Why? It goes back to the big okie doke. And if you need me to explain the big okie doke to you, nah. Why don't we let LeVar Ball explain the big okie doke, as LeVar was on the really big show, ESPN 850 WKNR. I think it's my man Rizzo. I think is this the Goldhammer show? I know Goldhammer used to do one with Rizzo. Anyway, here is LeVar Ball spelling out the big okie doke.
Michael Jordan say he couldn't beat me if I was one-legged. What do you think when you see yourself painted like that?
I think it's just entertainment. Look at everybody, man. Everybody used to say, yo, I think Wilt Chamberlain is better than Shaq. I think Oscar Robertson is better than LeBron. Now the story is Michael Jordan, LeVar is better than Michael Jordan. Come on, I ain't even played basketball in the pros, and they talking about me and Michael Jordan. That's what I'm talking about. He talking about beating him with one leg. Well, guess what? I can beat him with one hand. Now we both look like we out there like we can't play.
How are you supposed to win an argument with this man? Shannon, you heard that. He's like, look, how about I play with one hand? Now we both can't play.
The level of one-upmanship from LeVar, man.
Like, he just took a moment to point out the absurdity of the absurd situation that he brought forth in the first place, that we then brought to Michael Jordan as though it was serious. And, of course, dude, you could bring a 5-year-old in front of Michael Jordan right now, and little man would say, I think I could beat you in basketball. And the next thing you know, Mike is working on that belt, on them dad jeans, and he's unzipping them dad jeans, and he's pulling them off to reveal a pair of Air Jordan shorts that no one has ever seen, because every day Michael Jordan wakes up and puts on some basketball shorts and then puts on his jeans because he never know when a sucker gonna try to flex. And if that sucker happens to be your 5-year-old will have the joy of getting dunked on by Michael Jordan.
That makes me think of a follow-up question for you, Bo, and this will be another poll question. When's the last time, or what age did you stop wearing your basketball shorts under your jeans?
Oh, I can tell you the answer for that for me was 15, because 15 is when I had the knee surgery. That's when I stopped. But we can't, Dad, we'd have to put, like, the list of ages because somebody was still doing that in their 20s. Like, we can't put enough ages. Should we put an age group, like age brackets, like demographics? Like, maybe that's the direction that we should go in on this one. So, yeah, I talked about LeVar Ball the other day, and I was just like, I mean, dude, the misogyny is old. This right here, though, will never get old. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Give us a call. Coming up next, we got your phone calls about LeVar Ball. We got 2 people on hold that already fell for the okie doke. We'll also talk about how Anthony Lynn might have been hustling backwards on this LaDainian Tomlinson Hall of Fame thing on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Phil Yates of ESPN will join us next segment. Phil Yates will join us talk about there's any hope for Jared Goff. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. And, hey, it's time for Straight Talk. Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. So we were just talking a little bit before about LeVar Ball, the prospect of LeVar Ball against a one-legged Michael Jordan in basketball. I wonder if you guys have opinions on that. Let's hit the phones to talk to Jordan in Kentucky. Jordan, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, Bomani.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this like if this actually happened. So I think you give Michael 24 hours to get his leg under him, and he beats LeVar easy. The other thing is that I don't think we're thinking about here is, like, can he switch legs? Like, so does he only have to play on the same leg the whole game? So, like, can he call a timeout halfway through, switch legs? I think that's an important question that we need to ask here.
Yeah, see, that's Jordan, I appreciate that, but I don't think we talk about Michael Jordan hopping on one leg and playing basketball against LeVar Ball. We talk about Michael Jordan with one leg. Not Michael Jordan on one leg, Michael Jordan with one leg. I parsed the prepositions very closely in his statement. It's Mike with one leg, not on one leg. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. You guys may have heard there's a little bit of drama down there. San Diego, LaDainian Tomlinson is getting into the Hall of Fame this weekend. That would be Waco, Texas's own LaDainian Tomlinson getting into the Hall of Fame this weekend. And, Shannon, do you think that LaDainian Tomlinson will be wearing a vest under his Canton blazer with a tie that matches none of them just because he that country?
Absolutely.
I once saw LaDainian Tomlinson on television, and he was wearing 3 patterns. You know, we're looser about wearing 3 patterns now, but LaDainian Tomlinson still had 3 patterns. Had a pattern on the coat, had a pattern on the shirt, had a pattern on the tie, except the thing is he had on 3 patterns, and each one of those patterns had on 3 patterns, right? Like, he looking at that Canton jacket like, this ain't got no swag to it. It needs some hot sauce on it. And what I mean is I'm going to pull some hot sauce out of this bottle that I keep in my pocket everywhere I go to give it some flavor. That was more L.A. than Waco, but whatever. Anyway, so LaDainian Tomlinson, greatest player in the history of the Chargers, going into the Hall of Fame. He still has a couple former teammates on the team, Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates. And the way I see it, those 3 guys are among the 6 best players in the history of the San Diego Chargers. The other 3 would be Dan Fouts, Junior Seau, Kellen Winslow, John Jefferson, probably coming up somewhere in the back. Anyway, so the word had gotten out that those guys would not be able to attend the Hall of Fame ceremony, and we had heard from Alex Flanagan at the NFL Network that, they didn't tell, that Anthony Lynn did not tell these guys they could not go, but he adamant and told them that he would really, 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 really appreciate it if they did stay for what is a practice for VIP season ticket holders. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but we just kind of had this discussion not too long ago. I know you don't like to talk about this, but in politics, where we discuss how it is that when your boss says, I would really, really like you to do something, that means it's probably not an option. So, even with this, it just seemed like, okay, y'all are not allowed to go to Canton, which would have been a bad look. But it seems now Antonio Gates will be going. Phillip Rivers says he will not be going. He will be there to do that dance for the people with that money. Now, LaDainian Tomlinson wants to make sure you guys know nobody's being blocked.
Anthony Lynn is not blocking those guys from going at all. I've had conversations with all of those guys, all the parties involved, A-Lynn and Antonio and Phillip. And, you know, Phillip is kind of in a different situation. He's the quarterback of the team, and he's the leader. And really, it would look good for him to be there. I understand that. And I had that talk with Phillip about that. And so Anthony Lynn, you know, it's his first year as the coach of that team, and obviously he wants to set a certain standard there. But by no means is he blocking those guys from coming to the Hall of Fame. If they wanted to come, then he's going to let them do so.
Okay, so there we go. And now here is Anthony, and that's today's Mike there from LaDainian Tomlinson. And here's yesterday, Anthony Lynn. I see I'm calling him Antonio. Yesterday, Anthony Lynn said, no, I'm not blocking anybody.
Trust me, I got a personal friend that's going into that Hall of Fame, and I coach LaDainian Tomlinson, you know, Terrell Davis. And LT, I love to be there, and I know how important that is and how big of an accomplishment that is. So I get it. You know, I get it. But those guys are torn a little bit because we're having our first practice against the Rams in the Stub Hub, and they want to be there with their teammates. But, you know, we'll see. I'm sure they'll make the best decision.
Are you allowed to go?
No. No, I can speak for me. No.
Will it be their decision, though, as opposed to...
It'll be our decision. We'll make the best decision for our team.
Hey, Coach, you've been talking about an ultimatum, and it's been reported that you gave an ultimatum that they had.
Eric, I don't know where that came from. I guess you just can't believe everything you read on Twitter.
Hey, Shannon, did you hear that at the end where he said it'll be our decision?
He did say that.
Okay, so what was all this other stuff he was talking about? Did he not just say it'll be our decision? So that means that if y'all decide that y'all don't want to let him go, that y'all can't let him go? Like, look, I feel like Anthony Lynn is actually in a bad situation here. And the reason he's in a bad situation is you don't want to look like you the dude that's out here trying to lay down the law and tell dudes what to do. But it really got out there as though it was Anthony Lynn saying y'all got to be here at this practice, when in reality, the practice, dude, he talked about these guys want to be there with their teammates. No, they don't. These dudes are old in his training camp. They want to be anywhere in the world other than out there with y'all, period. Like, them young boys might still care about it. Man, don't nobody else want to be there. They don't want to be there. What are you talking about, right? But the thing for Anthony Lynn is he needs to be the guy in charge, right? He absolutely needs to be the guy in charge. He needs to be the guy who is, like, running this, right? But this is clearly something, at least it seems to me, something that is coming from upstairs, because upstairs cares about you being there for the season ticket holders at a stadium that only holds like 35,000 people, and none of us are sure that you're going to be able to fill it up, right? So they need to get people out there. They try to make a thing out of it. What we want to know here at the right time is, how do you schedule this on the same day that LaDainian Tomlinson goes into the Hall of Fame? Like, you think about this. When Dick LeBeau went into the Hall of Fame, he was the defensive coordinator for the Steelers at the time. Dude, the Steelers all went for his Hall of Fame induction. Now, it's a little different, of course, because those were his current players that went. But come on, man. LaDainian Tomlinson, the greatest player in the history of your franchise, is getting in. Y'all should have had everybody go. Gas up the charter. We all going to Canton. We all going to party. That's probably the way that you should have done it. But you can't. I repeat, cannot tell Antonio Gates that he cannot go. You just can't do that. If he wants to go, you wind up having to let him go, period. So it was like the law was laid down at first, and then everybody was like, hey, we're hustling backwards. But we need to retract our backwards hustling in such a way that does not undermine the authority of our brand new head coach. I feel like I should be working in PR because everybody else is PR. I feel like mine a whole lot better. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. All right, coming up next, is there any hope for Jared Goff? Wow, the dude's only played a year. We'll talk to Phil Yates about that next on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 8.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. He's an insider for us here at ESPN, talking about the NFL. His name is Phil Yates. Phil, we were just talking about the Anthony, it's really not even Anthony Lynn, the Chargers in this LaDainian Tomlinson Hall of Fame ceremony thing. How in the world did they manage to get themselves in a pickle on something that should have been so easy?
Yeah, Bomani, this one was one that once I heard the story, I immediately thought to myself, this one's going to take care of itself in the court of public opinion, because the Chargers are going to realize
very quickly that preventing both Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers from attending the Hall of Fame ceremony for a longtime teammate and arguably the greatest player in franchise history was going to come across as a bad look. Now, I get that they have a scrimmage that night, and this is part of the the indoctrination into a new city, in Los Angeles, and currying a fan base, albeit one that will be sitting in a 30,000 person stadium in StubHub Field next year. But yeah, it was surprising that it ever got to that point, but it sounds like eventually logic and reason has prevailed with Antonio Gates being on hand for the Chargers this weekend when LT gets his rightful spot in Canton, Ohio.
Well, knowing what we know was the funniest thing probably Anthony Lynn saying how badly those guys want to be there at training camp when they're teammates, when old guys want nothing more than to not be at training camp.
I was going to say, some of these guys that are unsigned right now, like unsigned free agents, are actually playing it right because they're like, listen, I'll wait until August 15th when camps are already starting to cool off, then I'll sign with the team. NFL veterans will tell you they do not look forward to training camp. It's not something that they clamor for throughout the off season. This is, the dog days of August apply to football and training camp, even on August 1st. So, I can't imagine that either Phillip Rivers or Antonio Gates was too thrilled about the possibility of having to practice versus be somewhere and celebrating a friend.
All right, we're talking to Field Yates of ESPN here on The Right Time. I want to switch gears a little bit, talk about what's going on in Denver with the quarterback situation. Who do you expect to come out on top as a starter in that one?
What I would say right now, Bomani, is anybody that believes definitively who it's going to be is probably just throwing a dart, right? This is and I say this routinely about this team, is this is the truest quarterback competition that we have in the NFL right now. Like, we have some that are on paper a competition but feel like they're going to end up one way that we sort of assume them to end up. But this feels like in Denver the truest quarterback competition. If Denver is intense and believes it can play outstanding defense and run the football at a competent level, then maybe Trevor Siemian has the edge because he's got less upside but also less downside. There's more volatility with Paxton Lynch, who, not just because he's younger than Trevor Siemian, but also because he needs to be refined. That much we knew when he was coming out of Memphis and left a year early and eventually split a little bit in the first round but was taken by the Broncos. But I think this one probably sorts itself over the next handful of weeks. If I had to pick one, I think I would imagine Trevor Siemian is the week one starter.
Now, you say this is the truest quarterback competition. Would you say that because the Jets have less of a competition or the Jets don't have any actual quarterbacks?
I was going to say, yeah, maybe it's because, for the Jets, like the quarterback who starts the season, it's hard for me to envision that quarterback sticking around for the rest of the season. Like, I happen to think that Josh McCown will start for the Jets this year to begin the season. But if the team is not competitive, I think even Josh would say, hey, doesn't the team owe it to itself to see what Christian Hackenberg may or may not be as a starter? Given how things have unfolded this offseason for the Jets, it's going to be a tough go of it for them. They might win 3 games this year. So you have to at least look around at your young pieces, not just at quarterback, but at every spot. So for the Jets, regardless of who starts week one, I think there's a legitimate shot that that job changes hands on multiple occasions this year.
All right, talking to Phil Yates of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, pretty much for the last 2 years, I've been waiting for somebody to give me something on Christian Hackenberg. I feel like I know nothing about a guy that at once I also know everything about. Are you surprised that this going into his second year after he was a second-round pick, we still don't know if he'll be able to get on the field?
Yeah, I am surprised. I just, even though you get just a year of practice reps, that was all that Christian Hackenberg got last year, you sort of have an idea. I mean, listen, if you see a guy make thousands of throws during the course of a season, you have a little bit of an idea of what kind of chops he has as a player. And maybe the reason why the Jets aren't sort of revealing how much they know about Christian Hackenberg is because they already know enough and it's not pretty. So they're just kind of, sort of hiding or not, they're staying away from what would not be, yes, a bad press, but, you don't want to see a second round pick investment go wrong this quickly. But, yeah, I think the Jets do owe it to themselves to at least get him on the field and see if maybe the light switch goes on that we don't necessarily know can go on at this point.
All right, talking to Phil Yates of ESPN here on The Right Time. And with the Jets there, I mean, how uncomfortable do you have to be if you're Todd Bowles and you're trying to save your job with a team that is designed, it seems almost designed to lose?
Yeah, it's not an enviable position for Todd Bowles to be in right now. I happen to think he's a good coach. I happen to think he's got a chance to be a very good coach, but I'm not sure what coach you could put in charge of that roster this year and expect that team to be competitive. it's by design, right? I mean, this is a team that has cut bait on basically every veteran of consequence, on everyone, but many of them this offseason, and they're sort of a year ago where the Browns were, right? It's tear this thing down and get to the foundation and then build it back up. Their cash spending is way down. Their cap commitments are way down. So it's tough for Todd Bowles. Like, if this team wins 5 games this year, we might look at him and say that was one of the best coaching jobs in football.
All right, we're talking to Field Yates of ESPN here on The Right Time. We'll switch gears a little bit. Talk about the Rams and their situation. They have the youngest head coach in NFL history and a quarterback that we don't know very much about, and the little we know has not been so good on the NFL level. So what do you think about Jared Goff going into this season?
I would say this. I have no idea if Jared Goff can be a superstar or a high-level quarterback or even like an above-average starting quarterback. But I am surprised that people have already cast his NFL success off or away after just 7 starts. Not that he did anything that inspires confidence, because there was very little that you saw from those 7 games that made you think, all right, yeah, he's got a chance. Just that it was 7 games behind probably the worst offensive line in football, with sort of a mishmash offensive staff, no running game, and no real difference-making pass catchers. Like, the 10 guys around him weren't much better than Jared Goff himself. So, again, I'm not guaranteeing or forecasting any significant success. I also think I understand why the Rams are not going to make any hardline decisions or draw any conclusions based off what we saw last season.
All right, last question for Field Yates of ESPN here on The Right Time. We're not getting great reviews from Blake Bortles in practice in Jacksonville. Is the Chad Henne era going to start again?
I tell you what, I'm not even sure if it's the Chad Henne era, but maybe the Brandon Allen era, who's their third-string quarterback, played collegiately at Arkansas. You just wonder, this is a roster that they have been trying to, through free agency, aggressively build to improve the results, and sooner rather than later. I mean, they've been stuck in the mud as a franchise, 5 straight years of picking in the top 5 in the draft. Blake Bortles, the problem with riding it out with Blake Bortles is that if he's not playing at a strong enough level to keep you competitive in that division, he has $18 million+ owed to him in 2018. It's not guaranteed for injury right now, or it's not guaranteed. It's only guaranteed for injury right now. So if he gets hurt, hey, listen, that means he gets that money. It's sort of like what happened with Robert Griffin III a few years ago in Washington, where they basically bubble wrapped him for a season and said, "You're not getting hurt because we don't want to pay you that money that that 5th-year option entitled you to." So it's a little bit of a precarious situation for Jacksonville right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the teams that is right in the thick of the quarterback market next offseason.
All right, that's Field Yates. He's an NFL insider for us here at ESPN. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com. Now, that's Progressive.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Field Yates of ESPN for joining us last segment. Dominique Foxworth of the Undefeated and ESPN Radio will join us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. And remember, if you miss anything live, check out the Right Time podcast, available on the ESPN app. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. We talked a bit about LeVar and Michael Jordan and their little hooping situation. Let's hit the phone. Talk to Larry in Jacksonville. Larry, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm all right. I do have a problem, though, with the NBA, and I'm not going to say you in particular, but all the announcers, they want to compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan. You want to be the best ever, you got to beat what Michael Jordan did. Now, let me specialize first that I am a Michael Jordan fan, but I don't agree that he is the best ever.
Continue.
Hello?
Yeah, you can't drop that without explaining it.
All right, how about one player, as a player and a coach, that led his team to 11 championships in 13 years, including 8 in a row?
Who's
Mr.
that?
Bill
I've never
Russell.
heard of him. Oh, Bill Russell. You're old, aren't you?
I'm 67 years old, and I've been a basketball fan all my life. I'm just short of 7 feet tall.
Yeah, Shannon, you know what time it is.
Hey.
Thanks for the call there, Larry. 888-729-3776. And by the way, Shannon, it wasn't until we got to the end of that call that I got to the verdict on Larry. Were you also a little curious at first?
Actually, I was, but then it came through. Late in the clutch.
Yeah. Like, I was going with Jacksonville. I was like, I think I know where this is going. And then he got started, and I was like, wait. He also told us he was 7 feet tall. And you think he could hoop? Or is he just 7 feet tall? You know, he said he was 7 feet tall, but he didn't say he played ball.
He's a volleyball player.
There we go. Or he worked at a department store. What's your job? Reach up there. Hey, man, reach up there and give me that. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Switching gears, the NFL is saying that they are willing to work with the NFL Players Association, perhaps on a study about using marijuana as pain management. They just want to do a study on it. They said the NFLPA has not responded to the offer. And my first question is, how many dudes that are members of the NFLPA send in emails being like, hey, man, I heard y'all looking for volunteers? Y'all think y'all can let your boy volunteer? Something hurts. And if it don't hurt right now, it'll hurt later. In fact, how about this? How about you get a group of people that got pain to see if the marijuana will solve it, and then I'm going to just smoke a bunch of weed to see if I can, like, keep the pain away like a force field. How about that? Perhaps more interesting to me on this one is just the NFL strategy when it comes to these things. Anything the NFL's got that would make a whole lot of sense for them to do, but they don't really want to do right now, the NFL is all about wait for the facts. They are a wait for the facts guy. Like, hey, man, we got a videotape right here. Hey, let's wait for all the facts to come in. So whatever it is the NFL has figured out, all they need to say is, we're going to study this. Right now, they had the deal with the National Institute of Health that was going to be studying. I think it was just head injuries. I think it was. But either way, it was, things happening with players. And then the National Institute of Health got so frustrated with the NFL because the NFL was trying to dictate who could or could not work on the study. And they just, to the point where $16 million got left unspent because they're like, it wasn't even worth our time to do. But the NFL, how'd they get in that in the first place? Oh, hey, man, we're getting a lot of hell about this thing here. Hey, you know what? Let's go get some more information. Then we can solve it. You'll never have all the information, right? So, therefore, they are always able to table anything difficult. All they ever have to say is, well, we're going to look into that. Hey, you know what we need? A blue ribbon committee. They love blue ribbon committees. Or the other one, you know what I think you guys ought to do? Get Ted Wells on the phone. Hey, Ted, we'd like a report. Yeah. We need a report. I don't care what's in it. Just give us a report. And more importantly, take your time while putting that report together. Yeah, no hurry at all. In fact, what would be best is if you gave us a report that said that in order to get to the bottom of this, we would need another report that will take a long time to put together. After all, we are in search of all the facts. So, like, with marijuana and pain use, like, guys, I don't know if you heard, but there's been a significant amount of research already done on this. I feel like they could Google it up. You know what, Shannon? I feel like the NFL needs to hire a consultant about the use of marijuana to manage pain. You know who that consultant is that they need to call? I bet you know who I'm thinking about.
What's up?
You know who I'm thinking of? I think they need to be kind of like, you know how Walmart got it, where they got the old people at the front, the greeters, they give it back to the community in that way. You normally see one or two of them at McDonald's. Why doesn't the NFL call up Al Harrington's granny? Hadn't she been doing research on this topic?
On all the different medicinal
That's
purposes.
That's right. They need to get Al Harrington's granny in here. Talk to her about what this situation is. Like, they've done this. This research has been done by so many different people. Some of it professional research, some of it recreation turned exploratory. Either way it goes, people have looked into this pretty thoroughly. You don't need a committee. NFL just wants to buy more time. All right, 888-729-3776. Talk to Mariah in Reno. Mariah, thanks for calling the right time.
Hi, I'm a huge fan of you.
Thank you.
So I play football, and I don't care. My family doesn't care that I have concussions, and I am 100% positive that it's not going to hold anyone.
Interesting. So you don't think football's going to hurt anyone, you say?
Well, it's not going to, kill anyone. Without the medication now, it's going to be, we can probably save many lives.
Okay, I got where you're coming from there, Mariah. I appreciate the call. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not exactly sure what she was talking about. I was too busy thinking about Air Harrington's grandmama showing people how to roll up so they can feel better. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next. Oh, something happened yesterday that explains why the Ravens can't sign Kaepernick. I'll tell you what.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million. What color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That's at Bomani_Jones. So, we talked a bit yesterday about the whole thing with Kaepernick and the Ravens having that awful press availability that did not make any sense, and Steve Bisciotti basically setting fire to all of your it's about football excuses when he's like, oh, no, this ain't about football. We going to call the money and make sure that we ain't offending none of our more racist fans. I mean, he didn't say that in the exact words, but, it's not really terribly far off that Bisciotti wound up saying that. So this has become a thing. Ray Lewis, he done got caught in the crosshairs because Steve Bisciotti was like, hey, I called Ray Lewis. And so we had to be like, why are you calling Ray Lewis? And Ray Lewis put out some rambling video talking about Kaepernick. I couldn't really understand it, and we couldn't clear the sound. Just know it was fairly rambling. Didn't Joe Flacco once say that 90% of the time what Ray Lewis says doesn't make any sense? Like, this is along those lines. But anyway, here's something he said here. He goes, the battles you fighting, brother, people way before us have been fighting for many, many, many years. And that's why I take each and every one of these kids. That's why I take them away from their environments and give them something else to see in life. And that's why I played the way I played. The football field is our sanctuary. If you do nothing else, young man, get back on the football field and let your play speak for itself. And what you do off the field, don't let too many people know, because they are going to judge you anyway, no matter what you do, no matter if it's good or bad. Ray, how the hell he going to get himself back on the football field without breaking in? Now, what you trying to do, get the dude locked up for trespassing? Like, from what I can tell, he's trying to get back on the football field. Won't nobody open the door. Although, Shannon, can you imagine that? Ray Lewis be like, if they was trying to blackball me, I'd just bust through the door.
Saying just like that, too. I would just bust through the door.
Yeah, that's right. You will not blackball me and my black. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Just a thought for you, by the way. I understand why this is a little tricky for the Ravens. I do. I totally get why this is tricky for the Ravens. Let us not forget that this is the city where they had to play a baseball game with nobody at the stadium because the streets was on fire after what had happened with Freddie Gray. Also, let us not forget that when the demonstrators marched through around Camden Yards during that game, they were fairly mercilessly heckled by people at restaurants along the way. There was an Orioles Red Sox series that was going on that weekend, as I recall. Baltimore is kind of at the forefront of the things that Kaepernick has talked about, kind of been on the forefront of the things that Kaepernick has talked about for quite a while, right? So now, let's take a small moment, and let us consider what would happen if Colin Kaepernick were already a member of the Baltimore Ravens, right? I woke up this morning, checked the news. I follow a lot of reporters out of Baltimore. I found their news to be intriguing. And there was an off-duty Baltimore County police officer who shot a shoplifter at a Giant. Giant is the grocery store. Shot a shoplifter. The details of the story are, at least according to the police, that this shoplifter took some laundry detergent, and then after taking some laundry detergent, this shoplifter then dragged this off-duty police officer working security 108 feet before he was shot. The officer was not injured. Now, I am not don't know no CSI, right? I'm not about that forensic life. I just don't know how anybody has ever been dragged 35 yards and not been injured. Like, I feel like if you get dragged for 35 yards, it's going to hurt, especially if you feel like you need to shoot somebody to save your life, right? That being said, that's the story. I'm giving you as it is. I'm also asking the question that anybody with a brain would ask and saying, like, oh, this is a little bit weird. Now, let's say Colin Kaepernick is playing for the Baltimore Ravens right now. We're sticking a microphone in Colin Kaepernick's face. And you know what Kaepernick is going to say, right? Yeah. It might turn into a thing. It might turn into a thing. And see, for the Ravens, it becomes a little bit tricky, right? Why? It's kind of hard to have the guy who is out here speaking openly about ending police brutality in this country when your local police keep shooting people for what does not often appear to be good reason. That's where it gets tricky, right? You understand what I'm saying here? Like, maybe, just maybe, if the Baltimore PD would wind up in such situations, and not just Baltimore PD, this guy's Baltimore County. You understand my point, is that if there is a police shooting in the news, they are going to come and talk to Kaepernick. And so many people have then responded on these sorts of things and then said, well, that's the argument they make for distraction. That should be your friendly reminder that you are more bothered by the idea that the football team might be distracted than you are by the idea that somebody got popped for taking laundry detergent. Like, that's where we are. So it's almost like basically the only teams in the league that could feel this level of comfort about bringing Kaepernick in are the ones that don't wind up with these unfortunate situations in the news where people get popped for reasons that don't seem to be very good. How many cities does that description apply to? Right. Maybe not that many. So long and short, maybe this dude could get a job a little bit sooner if he didn't have something to protest. Right? Like, maybe that's it. Maybe if there weren't something to protest, maybe the dude could get a job just a little bit sooner. According to your argument, like if we're going to fall in line with your argument that the whole issue is there going to be some kind of quote-unquote distraction, right? If he's going to be the distraction, your bigger problem would be with what's in the newspaper. Except for the fact that a whole lot of y'all, they got no problem with what's in the newspaper. And that's where we get to where this issue fundamentally comes down. There's nothing for that man to apologize for. And for some reason, some of these things that happen, y'all don't think there's anything for anybody to apologize for. Well, except for the people who get themselves killed. Or shall we say, get killed. Some get themselves killed. We're not going to pretend like that doesn't happen. A whole lot of other people just get killed. And if they do, they come in to talk to Colin Kaepernick. And when they do, you're going to be mad at him. It's hustling backwards just a little bit, don't you think? All right, 888-729-3776. Let's talk to Kenny in Asheville. Kenny, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate your points. My thing is, I really enjoy watching football. I'm a football. To your point about the distraction, I think it is a distraction. No team wants to deal with that. And two, he's just not as talented as people are thinking. He's not really being blackballed any more than like Tim Tebow. He was a major distraction.
Stop. Tim Tebow got traded to the Jets, got cut, got signed by the Eagles, got cut, got signed by the Patriots, got cut. I may not have had that in order right, but of course Tim Tebow didn't get blackballed. He got 3 chances like that and got cut. So you're right. Tim Tebow did not get blackballed. How many teams have given Colin Kaepernick a chance after the team who drafted him?
That's a good. I see that. But here's the thing.
But you really can't compare the two aside from the fact that Tebow was awful and Kaepernick is not.
Well, they're both not as good. They're not good enough to compensate for the baggage they bring.
Let me ask you a question. Do you honestly believe that if Tim Tebow was anywhere near being a professional level of quarterback, that a team would have a problem with bringing him in and all the money that comes with him? Like, do you think that the Broncos, like, if the Peyton Manning thing had not come around, do you think the Broncos just get rid of him because he's a quote-unquote distraction?
Yes, I don't think he would ever be a starter, and I'm not a Tebow fan by any means.
But
I don't think he would ever be a starter.
But what team was Tebow on where he was legitimately a distraction? Was he a distraction when they brought him in New England and Philadelphia?
Yeah, he was. He was all over ESPN.
Right. He was all over ESPN, but who was distracted? Did that affect anybody's ability to do their work?
Nobody wants to see that. I mean, not real football.
Hold on. What do you mean nobody wants to see this? You're telling me that nobody wants publicity in this publicity-starved society, that nobody wants publicity?
Well, like the point you made, on Sunday, they don't want Kaepernick answering questions about shootings.
Yeah, right. But what's that got to do with Tebow? What's that got to do with Tim Tebow? And, I mean, I appreciate the call, man, but everybody throws Tim Tebow out here, man. Yo, Tim Tebow's the worst quarterback I've ever seen. That's not me saying that. That's a quote from a defensive player who's now a coach who played against him in his first game, the first starter that year when everything went crazy. I was like, how was he? He said, worst player I've ever seen. 888-729-3776. Tell Eric in Pennsylvania. Eric, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, how you doing, Bo? I appreciate your comments. I love your show. I'll just speak, just having prior law enforcement experience. I'll speak out loud just on, I mean, you speak frankly about Baltimore police issues, somebody getting shot with stealing laundry detergent, but do we know the facts? So put the facts out, just on this for the mere sake
I gave you the facts. What more do you want? I told you what the story was that the police offered, all the way down to the exact number of feet the gentleman said he was dragged by a car. What more do you want?
Right, but if you get dragged by a car, do you think that that's not means or motive to defend yourself?
I'm asking the question as to whether or not you got dragged by how you got dragged by a car. Hold on. You want me to answer your question?
I'll put the question.
Do you want me to answer your question? I am asking if you got dragged by a car 108 feet, A, how you did not get hurt, and B, it doesn't sound like, and I could be wrong here, it doesn't sound like the shooting took place in the course of the dragging. So, yes, I have questions as to whether or not what happened. It's fair for me to ask questions while I wait on your facts.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I appreciate you asking questions because we need to ask questions before we make judgment and put stuff out to people, because if something happens to Bomani Jones, wherever he lives now, Bomani's going to call in response to whatever incident happens. He's going to call for help. Who are you going to call, Mr. Jones? The police.
You sure
so
about that?
They're not as bad as you think.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, if that's what makes you feel good, buddy. The whole argument, no. The whole argument is that if I need help, I'll call the police. That's your job. Of course, I should call you. That's your job. That don't always work out so well for everybody, though. Kick Rocks Champ, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, Jamal Adams says a football field is a perfect place to die. You been listening to too much Tupac, young man? You're too young to be talking like that. ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Dominique Foxworth of The Undefeated will join us next segment. Dominique Foxworth will join us at 5:30 Eastern, talk about what he thinks about Jamal Adams' comments. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. We were just talking a little bit earlier about Colin Kaepernick and why, hey, Baltimore might be a little bit tricky, but it's not Kaepernick's fault. Let's hit the phones and talk to Chris in Denver. Chris, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, what's up, Bomani?
Doing all right.
Hey, man, I'm from Baltimore. I live in Denver right now, and I can just attest. I mean, the reason I moved out here was because the city is just falling apart, honestly. Also, I wanted to say that Kyle Bowler is the worst quarterback I've ever seen over Tim Tebow. My question is, if Kaepernick didn't have all this protest stuff going on, what would be your choice as a backup, Kaepernick or RG3?
Oh, this is a no-brainer. If you watch Robert Griffin play last year, and I appreciate the call, and you watch Colin Kaepernick play last year, there's no doubt that Kaepernick's the guy that you go for, and that's before you get in with the injury part of it. Like, the idea that you would put those two dudes side by side is crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me that you'd put those two guys side by side, given what you saw from Griffin last year and what we saw from Kaepernick last year. Come on, man. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Talk to Paul in Scranton. Paul, thanks for calling the right time.
Hi, Bomani. How are you?
Doing all right, man.
So I have the perfect landing spot for Kaepernick. Football reasons only. Tell me a good football reason why he can't be the bridge quarterback between Alex Smith and whoever the crap they drafted.
No, I have not come up with one. Like, if you were to talk about strict football fit, yeah, I think that is the one. The thing is, if you bring Kaepernick in, you got to let Alex Smith go. I just can't imagine how Alex Smith would feel. He'd be like, him again? Are you serious?
At what point have we had peak Alex Smith? Like, okay, no. We know what Alex Smith is, and he's not mobile and fast. And isn't that Andy's biggest skill is to take mobile, flawed quarterbacks and get the best out of them?
Well,
that's literally his whole resume.
Well, I think it's dangerous to say mobile, flawed quarterbacks because I think Donovan McNabb is a borderline Hall of Fame level of quarterback, and I appreciate the call. I would also say that Alex Smith is mobile. There's no question about his mobility. I mean, he ran the Urban Meyer offense in college. So, like, his mobility is not something that we question. To answer your question, though, when did we see peak Alex Smith? Peak Alex Smith was probably 2012 when he lost his job. He was playing as well as he had ever played in his life. Got a concussion, and it was it.
Think about that. 6-7 years in, and he finally started to put it all together. Right?
One game on the Oak, and Harbaugh was like, yeah, we going with that. You remember that? Wasn't it a Monday night game where Kaepernick came in? It was either Monday or a Sunday. No, it was a Monday night game. I think it was against the Bears. And Kaepernick went out there, and I was like, yo, come on, man. You can't bench Alex Smith. Like, we're not going to bench Alex Smith for this. Like, we're not going to do that. Alex Smith never played for the 49ers ever again. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number, Chad. I guess we got to ride this out because we already got time to get to Jamal Adams properly. We'll get to it, though, when we get a second. Let's hit the phones. We'll talk to Barbara in Hawaii. Barbara, thanks for calling the right time.
Hi. Aloha.
Aloha.
I think you're wonderful, but I want to tell you something. Maybe someone else observed this, but I think if you wait about 10 years, Kaepernick will be considered a hero, much like Muhammad Ali.
You know what,
on in history
go ahead.
as a fabulous and wonderful and conscientious person, which you already know.
Well, I tell you this, Barbara, I appreciate the call, and I do believe that you are correct. The problem is when we look at those guys after history, in history or looking back, and we say that they're wonderful people, when we do that, when we're doing the documentary about how they got blackballed. Like, that's where that happens. Like, we only really wind up saying that if you have incurred some massive hardship on the way to doing this. So with Ali, of course, it was the threat of jail and losing years of his career and fighting all the way to the Supreme Court and everything else. With Kaepernick, I think that will ultimately happen. What is going to happen, and this happens pretty much no matter what, is there's going to be a young counterculture that develops, and those people are then going to look back at Kaepernick in a heroic sort of way. So part of what happened with Ali, the class of people that really look at Ali as being that hero are the young college students of that time period who became vehemently opposed to the Vietnam War. Because part of what they did with Ali in that time was he went and gave these talks on college campuses. So, like, there's a particular class of white people in particular who really looked at Ali in that way. Keeping in mind with Ali, it wasn't like all the black people's on board with Ali necessarily because, the whole Nation of Islam thing. But then white folks got really mad, and that's all it takes to really galvanize the black community. It's like, oh, all the white people mad. Yeah, we over here. We got this. We can't let this sort of thing slide. But it's going to take some significant level of loss for him for us to really go back and do that. And I do think in like 10, 15 years, they're going to make the books and the documentaries and everything else, and we will wind up looking at Colin Kaepernick as that sort of guy. And then many years down the line, when Colin Kaepernick is gone, they're going to hail him for his courage and everything else, and you won't be able to find a single soul who remembers who the people were who were aligned against him, because people will want to stand on what they consider to be the side of right. We've seen this movie play out over and over and over again. All right, 888-729-3776. Take a call from Chris in Mississippi. Chris, thanks for calling the right time.
Hi, Bomani. Love the show. You guys do a great job. What I was wondering is, do you think Kaepernick has any regrets as far as opting out this year? Like, I mean, it seems to me like if he would have stayed another year, things wouldn't be so fresh, and, maybe other teams wouldn't be so hesitant to, give him another shot. And I mean, honestly, under Chip Kelly last season in San Francisco, things were just a mess.
Well, let me tell you this, Chris, and I appreciate the call. The thing you have to remember about Kaepernick opting out, and a lot of people bring that point up, the reason that he opted out was because he knew that the 49ers were not going to re-sign him. They told him that they would let him go if he stayed on the team. So he opted out earlier than would have been the case if they had had the option to do so, ironically, so he could get a head start on finding a job. All right, now, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, as a former player, what does Dominique Foxworth think about what Jamal Adams said about dying on the football field? You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out at theundefeated.com. Also, the Morning Roast, 9 to 12 Eastern on ESPN Radio on Sunday mornings. His name is Dominique Foxworth. Now, Dominique, we'll start this. You're from Baltimore, right?
I am indeed.
Yeah, man. What's going on with your Ravens, man?
I was listening yesterday when you did that very, very on point Ray Lewis impersonation. I almost laughed, but you never know when Ray is lurking, so I didn't laugh out loud.
Ray pop up out of manhole cover and take you out.
Yeah, I didn't laugh. I didn't know why you was feeling. I guess there are cameras around the Bristol campus, so you can feel brazen. I guess you're in New York now. There are cameras around you, hopefully.
Yeah,
security.
We got to look out.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's odd to me that they're doing all this in public, and I actually think that Harbaugh is one of the better coaches, like schematic-wise and just motivating a team and leadership-wise in the league. And I think the same is true for Ozzie Newsome. I think you could argue that Ozzie Newsome may be the best GM in professional sports history, or well, maybe not professional sports, but in professional football. I think he's that good at that. And I think the two of them, it appears to me the two of them are on board based on the comments that they've made about bringing him in. It seems like the one person who is trepidatious is the owner, which is surprising because you go back to the Ray Rice situation, and it seemed like Bisciotti was like kind of brazen and kind of like, I don't care, I don't give a, I'm doing what I want to do and what's best for my organization. So it was really in those quotes that he had from yesterday were kind of funny and uncomfortable, talking about pray for me. But all of that kind of surprised me because I do think that Baltimore, before all this happened, I thought Baltimore was one of the organizations on the short list that could handle that weren't afraid to bring in Kaepernick. So I'm surprised that they're tiptoeing around it now, but hopefully they do pull the trigger at some point.
Well, let me ask you this. As former football player, what do you think when we in media and fans bring up this notion of distraction?
Yeah, you know how I feel about that. I don't buy into that at all. Like, guys, you don't get to, it's a self-selecting process. There's a lot of things that you can know are true about people that are in a professional football league because they wouldn't have made it to that point without some certain skills. And being able to compartmentalize different things and focus on doing your job is one of those things that are true. Distractions is not a real thing. I've been on teams with guys who have lost family members and their wives lost pregnancies. Like, they have real issues. And one of the famous ones is Brett Favre lost his father and went out and played. Like, it happens all the time. Talk about real life disruptive events, and guys go out and play just fine and you won't be able to tell the difference. The idea that it's someone coming into the locker room and suddenly you get more questions about issues of race, like, you're playing in Baltimore. Like, have we forgotten Freddie Gray? Like, those guys have been in that situation for quite some time. I don't think putting Kaepernick on the team is a distraction. The other kind of, I guess, distraction point is you worry if the team wants Kaepernick to play over Flacco if Flacco doesn't perform. And that, to me, I guess, is something to be concerned about. But how about you just play well? You don't have anything to worry about if you're playing well. So, I don't know. All of that stuff just seems like misdirection so they can point you over there when what they're really doing is shying away from doing something that might require a little bit of courage and signing a guy that your fans may not love.
All right, we're talking to Dominique Foxworth of the Undefeated and ESPN Radio here on the Right Time. Switching gears just a little bit. We're going to get to it a little bit later, but Jamal Adams said that a football field would be the perfect place to die. What?
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a pretty terrible place to die, if you ask me. But I've been, as I often am, I kind of find myself trying to explain and defend the players, even former players at this network, as we talked about on here before. They just get away from it and suddenly forget, and they start towing the company line and forget what it's like to be a player. But I have not forgotten. And while I've never put words out there like that or never actually fixed my lips to say something as crazy as I would die on the football field, like, it's kind of hard to separate how everybody who's playing professional football is at some point, like, they're deciding to put themselves at a lot of risk. And it's not because you love the game that much. It's because you have love for your teammates and you have mouths to feed and you believe that you can kind of redirect your family's future through football, and because you love the game. But all of us are making that decision. I played in, I talked about this earlier on OTL, I played in a game when Kevin Everett was paralyzed. And talk about having to make a decision. I was on the field on the kickoff when he ran down and was paralyzed, and he could not move. I was standing not far from him when they took him off the field. And guess what? After they took him off the field, I had a decision to make. Am I going to keep playing or not? Like, you are faced with that very stark realization of how dangerous what you're doing is, and I continue to play. So, I don't know. I don't want to bang on him for saying something that is, like, obviously seems outlandish, but there are things that we all think are super important and are important enough to put our lives at risk for. And football is it for him, and I can completely understand that. Well, I played in a preseason game one year where there was a 49ers guy, offensive lineman for 49ers, who died of a heart condition in the locker room after the game. So, like, there are people who actually are dying for this and losing the use of their limbs, which is pretty scary. Sorry to cut you off.
No, I was cutting you off. I apologize there. I was just curious how difficult that moment after Kevin Everett is paralyzed, like, how difficult is that for you to be like, okay, let's go back out here and do that same thing we just did that got that dude paralyzed?
Yeah, I mean, it's not funny. I guess I laugh to keep from crying, but it's very difficult. I guess it's not as difficult as you would think, but it is still difficult because it's something that I've gone through my entire life. When I was 10, I played in a game where a boy got his leg pushed back the wrong way, and the bone was sticking through, and I was crying after I saw that. He was on the opposing team. But I went back out there and played, and you condition, like, after years and years of doing that, there was a helicopter came to pick up one of my teammates in college from practice because he couldn't move. He turned out not to be paralyzed. And we didn't end practice. We moved it down to the other field and continued practicing while the helicopter was landing on the other field. So I stepped back, and as I get further away, I realize how ridiculous those things are and how crazy it is. But when you're in it, like, you believe in it, and you think there's nothing else more important, and you understand that. And I posed a question on social media earlier today, like, what would you die for, just in general? And I got a lot of family. A shocking amount of people said my dog, but a lot of people said their family, which to me is not too different from what Jamal is saying, because I don't know Jamal's background, but my assumption is he doesn't come from being a millionaire. So the idea of the potential of becoming a millionaire and kind of changing the trajectory of your family's future, I mean, you kind of are out there for your family in some regard. So, I don't know. I know that it's a hard position to take, but I'm certainly trying to defend my man on it.
Now, what if I told you his father played in the NFL?
He played back in the day. They was broke. Yeah, but, I mean, I could argue, I mean, they're playing in the NFL. I mean, I guess just even separate from that, it's like all of a sudden everyone, and this kind of rubs me the wrong way, everyone judges the players or judges him for kind of this gladiatorial kind of martyrdom type of mindset. But that's something we celebrate regularly in every other aspect of life, like in movies and mythology and throughout history. Our great leaders, like, we celebrate the people who have given their life for a cause, if it's losing your life in war or anything. And not to say that football is that important to everybody, but it's that important to him. So I don't know. I get a little antsy about people passing judgment on that. Like, I mean, you got a whole religion built around someone dying for the sins of others. So, like, martyrdom is something that we revere and we celebrate. And I talked about Ronnie Lott earlier, cutting off his finger to continue to play. Like, everyone tells that story as if it's something to be proud of. But when Jamal Adams says he's willing to go a step further, everyone makes fun of him and laughs at him. So, I mean, I agree. I'm not defending it and saying it's a smart thing to say, but let's not act like he just pulled it out of left field.
Yeah, thin air. I thought you were going to say something else.
You heard the pause? Because I was getting a little emotional. Almost went the wrong way.
Yeah, I know how that goes. That's Dominique Foxburg. Check him out at theundefeated.com. Also, the Morning Roast, 9 to 12 Eastern, Sunday mornings right here on ESPN Radio. And it's going to be awkward the next segment when I pass a little bit of judgment on Jamal Adams. But thank you, my man. I greatly appreciate it.
All right, I'll be listening. I can't wait.
All right, man. The Right Time is brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics. Take a synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Like I've been telling you for a while, if you travel for business, stop wasting time pricing your flights and hotels at the same old sites you used to go to. The only site you need is Upside.com. It's quick and easy for Upside to show you the exact flights you're looking for and the big-name hotels you want to stay at. You can buy them separately. You can bundle them together. The more you bundle, the more you save, the bigger the gift cards you receive to places like Amazon.com. Every time you buy a business travel package using Upside, their concierge level of service is second to none. You get the VIP treatment while still paying low prices, and their expert navigators are always available 24/7 on chat, social, phone, and email to help at any time. Upside's the real deal for buying your business trips. You got to give them a try. And right now, when you use promo code Bomani, you're guaranteed to get at least a $100 Amazon gift card on your package purchase. That's code Bomani to get a $100 gift card free. Upside.com, the better way to buy business travel. Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Dominique Foxworth of The Undefeated for joining us last segment. Also check him out on the Morning Roast, 9 to 12 Eastern on ESPN Radio, Sunday mornings. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. The Right Time is brought to you by Upside. Now save big on traveling. Get a big gift card every trip you buy. You'll love Upside.com. Upside.com. Talked a little bit about Colin Kaepernick earlier. Let's hit the phones and talk to Chris from Pennsylvania. Chris, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Well, Monty, as an active duty soldier for the past 15 years, I can say with 100% certainty that I have zero issue with Mr. Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem. My question to you, though, is, sir, if Colin Kaepernick had won the Super Bowl with the 49ers, would he have a job right now?
I'm going to tell you, Chris, I appreciate the call. I think the outcome would be exactly the same. I don't think there would be any difference. So, let's think about it, because if he had won the Super Bowl, we're really talking about the difference in one play, right? Like if there's one of those passes completed on the goal line. So that's the only thing that changes. So let's say after that happens, the 49ers then go and have the NFC Championship game lost in Seattle on that incredible interception by Richard Sherman, right? Then let's go the following year where the 49ers go 8-8, and then the year after that where Kaepernick is awful, because the hardest thing for a lot of quarterbacks to overcome is one awful year. People think that you're doomed to that forever, right? You go from there to last season where the 49ers went, 2-14? And I think Kaepernick was the starter for one of those wins. Everything runs the same. I don't think there's any difference whatsoever. I think to argue that it would be different if he had won the Super Bowl is to argue that what's happening here has anything to do with football performance. And since what's happening here doesn't have to do with football performance, there is no level of football performance, I think, that could overcome what the issue is. Now, maybe you could say if he was good as Aaron Rodgers or Cam Newton, then maybe people would be willing to overlook it, perhaps. But I don't think that people understand how ridiculous it is to say that this is only tolerable if you're the best quarterback in the world. All right, 888-729-3776. DJ Mike Hitman, what's going on?
Hey, Bo, I got a better chance to go down in history at Kaepernick. I fed the homeless. I give stuff to the kids for Christmas. And let me tell you what he got a chance to do if he's going to go down in history. He was 3 inches to win the Super Bowl. He failed. He was 2 inches. He was a month away from signing the contract, and he debated on it. He didn't sign it. He failed in that. He failed in not get a commercial with a head and shoulder with all that good hair. He failed in that. Now, what he needs to do, Bo, is change his image. Get a haircut, because you ain't getting no commercial with head and shoulder. And find your agent who give you bad advice. If you need somebody to talk to, you talk to me. Call me, 773-569-2237. I'll help you, young man. Because when you walk in the field, you got to be dressed up in a suit. And when you're in a suit, you never know who might want to put you on a camera. You don't see no image of him. All you see him with jersey on, Bo. And I feel sorry for Kaepernick. I love him like a stepchild, but something wrong with Bo. I got a better chance to go down in history. Chicago love me. Alabama love me. Roll Tide. And your Morning Jones used to love me. So who got a better chance? Kaepernick or me? And I ain't got no hair.
Mike, I'll say this. I don't think Head & Shoulders is going to be calling him regardless.
That's right, because I don't have no chances. Have a good one, Bo.
All right, Mike. Shannon, you imagine that if Head & Shoulders like, hey, Colin, saw you been in the news, saw your new haircut. How'd you like to do a commercial? How does that commercial go?
More importantly, I would like to see if we had Mike Hitman in the commercial with him, though.
Yes.
Make all the levels to this.
By the way, Afro Sheen still do commercials. You ever seen that old commercial, Afro Sheen, with Frederick Douglass?
I have, actually.
Yeah, I say, YouTube that if you've never seen it. Frederick Douglass commercial. Maybe that's where Colin could get into. I love the idea that Mike was like, yeah, maybe if you put on a suit, they'll give you a Head & Shoulders commercial. They don't make a suit that expensive. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Let's talk to Anthony from South Carolina. Anthony, that's calling the right time.
Bomani, man, so glad to be able to speak with you. The gentleman that came on that radio yesterday, he was actually filling in for the gentleman that came on after your radio show yesterday, said that he felt that Colin Kaepernick was not being blackballed. He was actually, it was up to the owners to sit around and say, hey, they don't want to hire this guy. How do you feel about that?
Hold on, say that one more time for me, please. Hold on, say that one more time for me, please.
All right, so the gentleman that came on the radio after you yesterday, he was actually filling in for the gentleman. He stated that he felt like Colin Kaepernick was not being blackballed. He was actually just not getting hired because the owners didn't want to hire him.
Yeah, isn't that the same thing? Like, I appreciate the call, but, like, that's kind of the same thing. They'll be a blackball, they just refuse to hire him. What? That's not how you say that this isn't a blackballing situation. That's not the way that you go about it. And again, I don't think that there's some secret memo that you're going to get that says that this is happening. However, you can't make the argument that the dude isn't as good as other people who have jobs. And given that last year was pretty distraction-free after the initial protest, you can't even really make the distraction argument. But y'all keep looking for him, don't you? All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Jamal Adams says that the field is the perfect place to die. What?
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shades.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed as at Bomani_Jones. Welcome to the NFL. Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams went to LSU. I know a lot of people looked at him as like the surest thing that was in the 2017 draft. Like a guy you felt like when you drafted him, he was going to be good. You could raise the question of how much you valued a safety, but there wasn't much of a question as to whether or not this safety was going to be able to bring it. Well, he was at the New York Jets fan forum, and he was asked about CTE and all the discussion that surrounds that, and he hit the people with this one.
If I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace. Literally, I would be at peace, and that's not a lie. Like, it's so much sacrifice that we go through as a team, and just connecting as one and winning ball games. It's nothing like playing the game of football. But again, I'm all about making the game safer. That's all I can say about it.
Wow, what a roundabout way to get to that point. Shannon, what did he say before that indicated this had anything to do with making the game safer?
Still trying to figure that out myself. Like his whole thing was I'm a defensive player, so the rule change. But actually, I think we're gonna actually have the audio of the before. Here it is, right here.
I'm all about making the game safer, but as a defensive player, I'm not a big fan of it, but I get it. Again, I can speak for a lot of guys that play the game. We live and breathe, and this is what we're so passionate about. Literally, if I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace. Literally, I would be at peace, and that's not a lie.
Of course, you'd literally be at peace, resting in it. You'd be dead. Now, we had Dominique Foxworth on a little earlier, and Dominique is always an empathetic sort, especially when it comes to former players. He's like, look, this is a young guy, and that the idea of martyrdom is lionized in our society, and he's just another guy who happened to do that. And I think there's something to that, and I think he sounded like a young dude when he was saying that. And, by the way, Shannon, it sounds like he must listen to some Tupac. Like, that sounded like he was, bury me a G.
I was wondering where he was going with that. Woo.
Yeah, I was ready for Enemies and Hennessy to come back to back when he decided to go with that one. Now, I thought about this in a couple of ways with Adams. And in fact, right fast, that short clip, the one that we played at first, play that one more time and I'll tell you when to stop.
If I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. I would be at peace.
Okay, stop right there. What the hell is wrong with those people? Like the people who are clapping. Like, what in the world are you doing? The rest of us are like, ooh, I don't know about that. When the fans are like, yeah, die for our entertainment. That is all we want is somebody who is willing to die to make us happy. Which, by the way, if I'm a football player and I hear the fans clap when I say that, I'm not like, hell yeah. I'm like, ooh, hell no. Right? Y'all should be like, no, we don't want you to die. They're like, no, die on the field.
The only thing missing there was a Maximus chant.
Yeah, like, no. I can say this. You can't say that. Like, they're basically saying, yes, Jamal, that's what we want. Go out there and die in front of us. And after you're dead, we'll retire your jersey. What? Come on, man. Now, again, for Adams, that's the kind of craziness that young dudes have a tendency to say, I suppose, right? Like young dudes have a tendency to talk about death in those sorts, in this flowery sort of way because it ain't real, right? Like it's a far off notion and concept for a lot of them. Like I remember this is, man, like at least 15 years ago, whenever George Harrison died. I think George Harrison died in 2003, somewhere around there. Anyway, Bill Maher on the show he used to have, Politically Incorrect, he did this made this fascinating point where he talked about George Harrison. You know, we play a track off All Things Must Pass on this show, right? And My Sweet Lord, right? I really like to see you, but it takes so long, right? Like everybody when they're young talks about how they want to go to heaven, they want to see God, but oh my goodness, it takes so long and everything else. And then when George Harrison was rich and had cancer, George Harrison spent all the money that he had looking for something that would stop him from having to go see the sweet Lord that he was so interested in seeing when he was in his late 20s, I think maybe early 30s, right? The game kind of flips on you when you get a little bit older. So for a young dude to be like, this is where I'd want to die, that's not that wild. The part that got me about that, though, his dad played in the league. I would be very, very curious to know, like, what his dad thought when he heard that. Like, I'd be curious to know what his dad's life is like now. Like, I don't know what pain, his father is or is not in right now, the way he retrospectively looks at his career. Maybe his father has looked at, his father has taught him this same sort of mentality when it comes to football, that it is of this level of significance. But that was my first thought, man. It's like, what did your father think upon hearing that? Because I imagine his father doesn't feel about these things the way he felt when he was in his 20s. And I'm not saying this with any level of judgment to either party involved. I mean, I'm just legitimately curious what it is like in those places. So, like, I think about with my father is like a for real deal, like them cats in the 60s that was talking about it. My pop's about it. Like, there's no other way to put it. And I think about some of the stands that I had been down to take or willing to take when I was younger, and how many times my pops came back and was like, yeah, okay, so let's talk about this, right? These are things that I'm talking about that probably fell short of what he would have been willing to do at the same age. But you get some time under you, you look back on it, and you're like, okay, maybe that's not the best approach. So I wonder, like, what the conversation would be like when he talked to his father after the fact and what his dad thought about what he had to say. Because I personally worry about anybody who is young and thinks that any one thing is that important. Like, that's where it is for me, is anybody who has this one thing that is not like family related that you're willing to die for. And by the way, when you're as young as Jamal Adams is, the only family you should be talking about dying for are your children, if you have them. So this intellectually, I just look at that like, I wonder how his approach is going to change. And I almost feel bad for the kid, because if he winds up, getting older and suffering from the pain that people talk about, folks going to bring this clip up and probably throw it in his face. By the way, Roger Goodell was at that same fan forum. And this is Roger Goodell talking about the health of players.
With all due respect, let's just try to stay with statistics. The average NFL player lives 5 years longer than you, on average. So their lifespan is actually longer and healthier.
Well, Raj, their lifespan is longer in part because the total sample involves people who do things like die in infancy, and you are getting guys who at the very least are starting in their 20s. Number two, these dudes are often very healthy. And number three, some of them wish their lifespans weren't so long. Because the longer the lifespan means the longer they got to live and the longer they got to deal with that pain and everything that comes with it. The issue is not how long people live. The issue is what is the life that they live as it goes on. That's what we're trying to figure. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And so Goodell is always trying to shake this, where I feel like Goodell would be better off saying this. We got a league full of dudes who have decided that they are willing to trade short-term glory for long-term pain. Like Muhammad Ali talked about that when they said when he was training for the Rumble in the Jungle, and he was just standing on the ropes and just getting pummeled, right? Preparing to do the rope-a-dope, just standing on his ropes, getting pummeled and building up that resistance to that. And they said what he would say is, suffer now and live as a champion forever. That was the trade he was willing to make. And look, if he's willing to make that trade, I can't say anything about it. But don't come in front of me with this nonsense, talk about, well, they live long lives. No, you'd be better off saying, yeah, these guys suffer a lot of pain on the back end, but, man, they live great on the front end, and that's the way most of them decided they were going to do it. That I would respect. They live longer than you? Yeah, they may live longer. Are you sure they're going to live better? And, like, you talking to me, I got money, right? So you can't even be like, hey, they just rich. Hey, I got money, and I got it in a chair. Who you think going to be living better at 50? And if you're being real, guess who's probably going to have more money? All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Coming up next, we got some phone calls maybe, and also your man Adam Silver says a discussion of NBA expansion is inevitable. Adam, your league is hustling backwards. I'll tell you why on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. That's the old soul song of the day, Superfly. May or may not make selling drugs sound kind of cool. May or may not. I'm leaving some ambiguity there. Hey, nothing makes a summer birthday or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. We just talked about Jamal Adams talking about that he would be willing to die on a football field. He clarified that to say it was just his passion of the game. He wanted to make sure that people understood he wasn't trying to show disrespect to the football players who are now suffering or have died and be found to have CTE or anything else. He just sounded like a reckless young dude, and that's what reckless young dudes say. But my man Luis is listening to the show, and he made a great point. He said the other side of I would die on the field is Adams willing to kill on the field. Is that part of the equation? And if there's a nobility in dying on the field, one could make the argument there's also a nobility in killing on the field, right? Moral of the story is, these dudes play a game where you might die. Like, don't ever forget that. They play a game where you might die. 888-729-3776. Hit the phone, talk to Clinton in South Carolina. Clinton, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, Bomani, Jamal's not saying he wants to die, but he's saying if I'm going to die somewhere, it's as good as any place. Is there a good place to die?
I think mattresses are a good place to start, though I do understand your point.
But, I mean, I played rugby for 7 years, and numerous broken bones. I know I'm going to have consequences later on, but I wouldn't trade that time for anything. And I am old now, so I understand what he's saying.
No, I can see what you're saying, man, there, and I appreciate the phone call, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Shannon, what about David Carradine? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't that the dude for Kung Fu?
Yeah, it was. Kung Fu and Kung Fu, the legend continues, right?
So, like, where would that be on the list? I mean,
yeah.
Fair. I mean, look, that's the thing about it. If you're going to start, ordering, noble deaths, we got to go to the whole span of what the deaths are. And, there's that.
That was, yeah.
Hey, what the man say? You got to die somehow, right?
People are Googling David Carradine's death now.
Yeah, they are. They are. You know about Nelson Rockefeller?
Know about that one, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying. You know what we're doing right now, Shannon? We're teaching about history. That is what we are doing there. Should we move on?
This level of nobility when it comes to that, right?
I mean, I just say this. Nelson Rockefeller, if you can find a better way to go, I'd love to hear it. Anyway, switching gears, our man Adam Silver, a.k.a. Commissioner Dungy, he says that NBA expansion is inevitable, he says. He talks specifically about Seattle. This is what he says here. He says, I think it's just a question of when the right time is to seriously start thinking about expansion. I don't want to put a precise timeline on it, but it's inevitable at some point. We'll start to look at growth of franchises. He said this to C.J. McCollum for the Players Tribune. The worst idea in the world for the NBA is to expand. Now, I saw something yesterday that said that apparently one owner has said that if the NBA were to expand, that they should start at $2 billion as the expansion fee. So I guess, but I guess the argument would be that's basically what's his name? Ballmer paid, right? Ballmer paid $2 million. That was the equivalent of getting an expansion team. Like there's one team that's available. People are going to get in and try to get it. $2 billion is where they say they should start. Now, I can't imagine it being a good idea to pay $2 billion for the 31st NBA team. How many teams in the league? Was it 32? 30? Yeah, okay. So whichever one. The N plus one, I don't feel like it's worth $2 billion. I don't feel like it's worth it for the NBA to spread the talent out. And more importantly to me, there's nowhere left to put a team. Now, I mean, there are places where you could say it might not be the worst idea, like Seattle always comes up as a place to put a team. Now, the problem, of course, we're talking about Seattle is when you talk about a basketball team in Seattle, that means that we have to talk to the most entitled fans in the NBA, who are a bunch of fans who don't have a team who live in Seattle. Now, Seattle fans, I want to start right here. The NBA did you guys wrong. The NBA decided to use you guys as an example to show that if a city will not capitulate to their demands for an arena, we will take your team and put it anywhere, even in a market that is much smaller. Seattle got jobbed when they took the Sonics out of there and moved them to Oklahoma City, though I do absolutely respect the gangster of Clay Bennett for being like, I want to be able to watch NBA basketball in my own city. Let's go get a team. And then did it. Right? They're like, you had a basketball team for a couple of years. That was fun. Let's go get our own. And then they did it. Okay, I kind of respect the gangster of that. But for the NBA, the NBA is already in enough cities that aren't big league cities. That's just what it is. Like, you look at the map and the real estate that the NBA has. My man Ethan Strauss used to always make this point. Look at the cities the baseball teams are in, and then look at the cities the NBA teams are in. The NBA is down to give far more people a shot. Major League Baseball is never moving to New Orleans, for example. And, like, I understand why the NBA is so dedicated to keeping a team in New Orleans. I think they probably would have left by now if the league wasn't so dedicated. But think about this. There's an NBA team in New Orleans. There's an NFL team in New Orleans. The reason there's an NFL team in New Orleans is because that NFL team is subsidized by the state of Louisiana because they think it's important to have a football team in the state. Like, it is not really sustaining a football team on its own. Like, that's how important that is to them, that the state gives money, almost like they're boosters to a college team. But the NBA just doesn't have a lot of places left on the map that they need to beat. I don't think there's a single city left that the NBA could go to with an expansion team that makes the league better. Like Seattle, for example, they've been gone for Seattle for almost 10 years now. I think they've been gone for 9 years. 2008 is when they left. Has it hurt the NBA for that team to not be in Seattle? Like, Oklahoma City is a small market, but that team remains a huge television draw on national broadcast. So not being in Seattle hasn't hurt the NBA. Like, when I deal with Seattle fans, what I find is they always have these arguments as to why they don't have a team, but, like, why does Memphis have a team with a number 14 market, right? Why does Sacramento have a team, but we the number 14 market? And I'm like, yo, I don't know and I don't care. I'm just saying, putting a team in Seattle ain't changing the world. Like, think about this with Seattle. Minneapolis is right there in the same cluster of media markets, right? Detroit is right there in the same cluster of media markets, right? The league isn't losing a thing, I tell you, a thing if it moves out of Minneapolis. None of y'all are really going to weep if it moves, if the league moves out of Minneapolis. That's about where Seattle is in size. So if you were to tell me that you were looking for a place for a team to relocate, oh, yeah. I put Seattle right there on the list. The Kings want to go somewhere else? Seattle would be a great place for them to go. Why? It's the number 14 market in America. Like, that's a good place to go if you're looking for a new place. But an expansion team? No. The only thing an expansion team or putting in expansion teams in the NBA might do is it might actually reinforce you guys under this foolish belief that the NBA would be better with quote-unquote parity. And how would you get that parity? At first, by thinning out the quality of the league. But you know what's going to wind up happening because of the nature of basketball? It'll all cluster once again toward a handful of teams having all the good players, because the teams that are down at the bottom that might have one really good player, what's the point of having him if you're not good? And so you'll send him somewhere else. Who will need the good player? The good team. And you'll always wind up with the same results. Why? Because that's just how basketball works. They do not need to expand. Now, what I'm hoping for from the NBA is, somebody said that the NBA wants a $2 billion expansion fee. No, make it a $3 billion expansion fee. Get good and greedy. Why? Because if the greed goes up, then they can be protected from their own greed. If they get greedy and ask for too much on expansion fee, then maybe you thin out the number of people that want to have a team, and maybe that stops you from expanding. Because the only thing that can save greedy people is greed. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we got a lot of your phone calls, and also the battle of one-legged Michael Jordan against LeVar Ball. One-legged LeVar would have no chance. You listen to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can just our snapshot if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. We ain't talked about Colin Kaepernick in like an hour. Phone line's still blowing up. Let's hit the phones. Talk to Fred in North Carolina. Fred, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, Bomani, love your show, man. You got a great show going. I listen to you every day. So I appreciate it. Thank you. The only thing I got to say about Colin Kaepernick, I'm not going to broach his issue, but there's a lot of quarterbacks wanting to get into the league. And I'll tell you what I think dropped him was the media. And the reason being is, look at Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is a second-rate quarterback, admittedly.
Not fifth rate.
Well, okay, fifth. But, I mean, you're telling me there ain't fifth-rate quarterbacks in the league?
Honestly,
what I'm saying is
I'll be honest with you. I think every single person playing in the NFL is better than Tim Tebow.
That's possible. I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying though is when he tried out for Philly, they said the reasons they didn't hire him is they didn't want the media circus to come in.
Did they? Hold on. Who said that and when? Because they brought him in the first place. It's hard to argue you didn't want the circus when you brought an elephant to training camp.
Right. I know it, and I couldn't understand it either. That's why Philly ain't got a ring. But the whole thing is he brought a media circus upon himself that he did this to himself. There's, for every job, like for instance, you're a damn good broadcaster or whatever the hell you call yourself. But, I mean, you're really good at your trade. But let me tell you something. If you create an issue, you don't think there's 10 guys behind you wanting to take your job?
Yeah.
I mean, for real.
I mean, for what it's worth, though, Fred, and I appreciate the call, I basically do say the same things as Colin Kaepernick, and, I still work here. Right? I mean, honestly, I don't even – Shannon, did you understand what he was saying?
Was he going? Was he getting back to the Tebow Kaepernick comparison distraction thing? Was that where he was?
Well, I think what happened was once I was like, no, I think every quarterback in the league is better than Tebow, because he says, you tell me there aren't fifth-rate quarterbacks in the league. No, there aren't. And he's like, oh, boy, actually, I no longer have a point.
Driving with his GPS, then his battery died, and he didn't know where he was going.
Yeah, or it's a New Jersey thing. You get into it. You had a sign to tell you the freeway was that way. You get to a T-junction, and now you don't know where to go. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. It's to DJ in California. DJ, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, Bo, how's it going? Appreciate the phone call.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I kind of wanted to run something by you and let me know if I'm a little too sensitive. So one of the main things that bothers me with this cap situation is that they keep throwing out there the distraction, as if these players can't pay attention to multiple things at once. What do you think about that?
Well, no, I have said for a long time, and I appreciate the call, that this notion of distraction is so wildly overstated. And there's the grand irony that is the media. We are the distraction machine, and we're always the one who then say, well, this guy's going to be too much of a distraction, right? You really kind of can't have this both ways in that regard. Like, you become part of the problem. Like, if your argument is, Kaepernick shouldn't be on the team, he's too much of a distraction, but then you work in the business of making the distraction by making this point, what exactly are you doing? It becomes a fair question. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Let's hit the phones and talk to Tracy in Baltimore. Tracy, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, love the show. Listen to it every day.
Thank you.
I just got to tell you, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, been a fan for 20 years. And we got a great defense, as always. We finally got some receivers, and if something happens to Joe, Ryan Mallett is not the guy. I would love to have Colin Kaepernick as a backup.
Well, Trace, let me tell you something. I appreciate the call. And yes, the Ryan Mallett one is what makes this such a problem. Because what's Ryan Mallett on? Shot number 3? Right? Like, he had the chance to be the next Tom Brady, and they were like, nah. And then he went down there to the supposed quarterback guru, Houston. Nah. And he embarrassed himself when he was there. And then he got to Baltimore. Flacco was hurt last year, and he's like, I'm going to show him. And he showed us that he's Ryan Mallett. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Let's hit the phone. Talk to Carlos in Fresno. Carlos, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani. Hey, listen to you every day on the way home from work.
Thank you, man.
Hey, I got a couple comments and then a question. One, first of all, the whole deal about him not getting a job, as far as I understand, as long as you're not doing anything illegal as far as hiring, like racial discrimination or sexual discrimination, you have a right to hire anyone you want to.
I don't think it's that simple, Carlos. Right? Like, I think there are pretty states. It's got to be a few states that got it in the books that say that you cannot discriminate against someone for their beliefs.
Okay. So then, beyond that, my question is, we talk about the reasons why he's not getting a job, and why is it that none of the owners are hiring him or whatnot? Putting everything aside, all the PC and all that kind of stuff, you tell me what you feel to be the primary reason why he's not getting a job.
Oh, that's easy, and I appreciate the call, Carlos. The primary reason Colin Kaepernick does not have a job is that he took an overt public stance in outright defiance of the oppression of black people at the hands of the state. That's it. Honestly, he could have got up and stood up against the oppression of black people at the hands of McDonald's, and people would have been riding for McDonald's like you've never seen before. But that's what this comes down to. It's beyond simply – now, I will say this. Part of it is specific to the national anthem because the NFL has been selling patriotism as part of the brand for a long time. There's a book that people have been recommending that I read on that, the title of which I cannot remember. But it's been a long-standing push that part of the growth of the NFL came when they wrapped themselves in the American flag. But I think the part that becomes unforgivable for a lot of people is not simply the protest, but what the message is behind the actual protest, right? Like, once you get to the message that's behind it, that seems to be the reason that he does not have a job. It's not about how good he is at football, though. I'm confident in that. 888-729-3776. Tim from Iowa. Tim, thanks for calling the right time.
Bomani, how's it going, man?
Doing all right.
Love listening to the show every day coming
Thank
home.
you.
So my feeling is, and I really do agree with you, that the message is, a part of the reason why he's not getting any love right now. Just also wanted to hear your thought on the group of the owners in the NFL, those individuals particularly. Is this not necessarily something that they're keen to dealing with, a message like this? Are they unprepared to, I guess, try and save face within their own group while also trying to be good owners in the NFL? Does that make any sense?
No, not really, but thanks for calling, Tim. The thing that I will say, though, if the NFL owners are not prepared, they've had a year to prepare, right? They've had a year to figure out how to deal with this. And, in fact, a lot of them had to figure out how to deal with some of it when other players on other teams decided they were going to do that early in the season. Remember that? Right. They were prepared on that one. At least prepared enough, because nobody else really had any drama. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we'll catch up on what you haven't heard, including LeVar Ball hitting y'all with the big old okey doke. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Dominique Foxworth of the Undefeated in ESPN Radio for joining us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. Thanks to Field Yates for joining us in the 4 o'clock Eastern hour. Remember, you miss anything live, check out the Right Time podcast available on the ESPN app. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. All right, Shannon, what we miss out on today?
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. Now, if you haven't heard.
He just had to take the bait, didn't he, Bo? Michael Jordan just had to take the bait. LeVar Ball, not so long ago, said that he would be able to beat Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan was asked about that by Slam Magazine. If you haven't heard, here's Bomani Jones earlier today on The Right Time discussing Jordan and Ball and why MJ just couldn't let this one go.
I feel like he needs to put out an album. And my fear of saying he needs to put out an album is he might actually start rapping, which would not be a good thing, right? But I can see him, in a sense, deciding that he was going to come out here and put out an album. I don't want him out here rapping like Mercury Morris, but I just want him to put out an album because the title of that album would be, or maybe if he did a movie, it'd be called The Big Okey Doke. He's running okey doke on us all. Like, yo, we're here, man. As much as anybody talk about how mad they get at this dude, we are here. The joke is all on us. The big okey doke is in full effect. In fact, I imagine if LeVar Ball was in the NBA right now, Shaquille O'Neal would call him the big okey doke. And the okey doke is so big. The okey doke is so big that LeVar managed to hit Michael Jordan with the okey doke. Now, you have to understand that Michael Jordan is not a very difficult man to hit with the okey doke, but he got hit with the okey doke nonetheless. Now, you may remember that months ago, LeVar Ball said about Michael Jordan that back in his heyday that he could have beaten Michael Jordan in one-on-one. He said that what he would do was just back Michael Jordan down and that Michael Jordan wasn't big enough, and then that would be that. Now, of course, I feel like that entire strategy is dependent upon hitting the shot for the ball, because if you don't hit the shot for the ball, you have no chance. You can't back anybody down when you're on defense. And when you're on defense against Michael Jordan, you can't stop him from scoring, right? But, hey, man, he went out there, he talked about it. People were actually out entertaining the idea that this whole thing could come up. And I just remember, man, I was sitting there like, you getting got. You getting got. LeVar is simply the dude who does this, right? He says these sorts of ridiculous things. Basically, LeVar Ball is kind of like the Kim Jong-il of the AAU circuit. Not Kim Jong-un, that is the current president of North Korea. I'm talking about his father, Kim Jong-il. And I am not saying that LeVar Ball is a dictator who may, in fact, try to start a nuclear war of some sort. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he reminds me a lot of the dude that said, what was it, his first round of golf, that he hit like 15 hole-in-ones or something like that, or is it holes in one? Like, that's LeVar Ball for you right there. You throw a soccer ball out there in front of LeVar Ball going to be like, man, I'm better at this than Peely.
He got him, man. Hook, line, and sinker. He's like old man in the sea. He got him.
Yeah,
he got his Marlin.
He got him until he run up on Mike, and Mike take off them jeans, and Mike ready to hoop right then and there. Like, there is no one that Michael Jordan is not bucking back at, right? Even in the club. Mike, you really wasn't that good. 3 o'clock in the morning, Mike's like looking at Tim Grover like, hey, turn the lights on in the gym. We about to roll. Call a limousine for this fool.
So, of course, we had to ask. We had a poll today at ESPN Radio's Twitter account. Who would be a better basketball player, LeVar Ball or one-legged Michael Jordan? 93% of the folks who voted said one-legged MJ.
And by the way, the proper pronunciation is legged.
Well,
one-legged Mike. One-legged Mike. 90% got one-legged Mike.
Here's I'm curious at 7% though. Said LeVar.
I still say it's very close, and it depends on whether one-legged Mike just lost his leg or has had his whole life to adapt to only having one leg.
Well, I don't know if LeVar got all of us. When I was looking up at the TV, saw PTI, and they were discussing one-legged Michael Jordan versus LeVar Ball.
Got us all.
So PTI.
Got us all.
You got us all. Well, speaking of Mike, you just made reference that Mike would take off his huge, big jeans, and he would probably have on a pair of Carolina blue shorts under, because Mike seems like the type that still has his balling shorts under, because you never know.
You never know.
He
is always prepared. Why? Sucker my flex.
Absolutely. So we had a Twitter poll today on the ESPN Radio Twitter account, and the question was, how old were you when you stopped wearing basketball shorts under your pants? And the choices were high school, college age, or stopped. Ball don't stop. Well, we had over 2,000 people who voted for this, so thank you very much. And 47% of the voters said they stopped wearing basketball shorts under the pants when they were in high school. 47 said high school, 22 said college age, 31 said stopped. Ball don't stop.
Hold on, though. Can these young boys even do this anymore with them tight pants they be wearing? Like, is this even an option for them? Do they all have to go to a full costume change in order for them to hoop as they out here wearing these little big tight pants they be wearing out here in these streets? I just thought about that right now. There's a whole generation that don't know. We grew up in the generation where your pants were way too big. So your pants were way too big, and then you had them slick basketball shorts all underneath. You spent all day picking your pants up.
Oh, yeah, you had your belt on the last loop.
Yes.
Because your pants were already big as is, and you got those slippery, sliding shorts on.
Yes.
Your belt was on the last loop.
Especially if you had the reversible shorts where the one side was always slick.
31%, though, of the voters said that they still wear the shorts under. We actually had a gentleman who said, he went to an all-white wedding, and he had his basketball shorts on.
And he realized maybe he should stop. And when we say all white, we ain't talking about dress code.
What are you trying to accomplish, though, with the basketball shorts? One dude said he wears a suit almost every day to work, and he still wears his basketball shorts under.
And everybody talk about their coworkers. That's the best.
Then, of course, we had the folks on the poll who said, that doesn't apply to us. I never wore shorts under.
So basically, we should have had a heading on that poll that said, "I'm a herb."
Essentially. Yes. Yeah. When did you stop? Really quickly. I know we're running short on time.
It was high school. I had knee surgery when I was 15. Mm-hmm. So, after that, I wasn't really just, dropping off on let's go hope, on the drop of a dime. But, yeah, it's around it. But, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this every weekday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Shannon Nuno Cat, thanks so much. Jalen Jacoby with Jason Fitz is coming up next.
Thanks for listening to The Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.